Yeah. Yeah. It's the return.
Oh man. Who is that? Who is that I'm looking at on my screen? Is that my boy? Is that my boy Grant McNasty? Back on the court? Back again, getting fucking hit by Medusa heads because I don't know how to position myself on the stairs because I'm a fucking dipshit. What's up, Earthrockers? This is a video that I talked about making a long time ago, but that I never thought I would actually make. JP Grant. I have been hearing about great JP Grant ever since I learned anything at all about Dracula's Curse, which feels like a million years ago, but was actually very recently. I knew what JP Grant was. I knew what people said about him, but actually playing JP Grant is not the same as just hearing about JP Grant. I would like to say, first of all, that I did not have sex with that woman. I don't know what you guys may or may not have heard lately, but that's not true. I want to make that clear first of all. Second thing I want to make clear is that people talk about JP Grant as if he's like, as if he is just like he just steamrolls through the whole game. But that's not quite true. JP Grant is extremely good, but he's not like, you're not going to autopilot your way through the entire game with him. The way that people talk about him makes it sound like that's the case. So the differences between JP Grant and US Grant. US Grant has a basic attack that's like a shiv. He like stabs with like a knife, and the range is extremely short. JP Grant, by contrast, has throwing daggers as his default attack. There's a caveat, which is that you can only have one dagger on the screen at a time. So what's interesting about that is that although the daggers have infinite range, or range as far as the screen, so much better range than US Grant's daggers, his swing speed is actually closer to Trevor's than it is to anybody else's, because there's this little wind up that he does before he actually throws the dagger. I'm just not fighting those owls for some reason. I don't know why. I guess I thought I could just outrun them, but I was wrong. Yeah, you do have to you're gonna have to actually fight things as Grant. Good as he is, you do have to actually like attack enemies in order for them to die. And because Grant already has throwing daggers, the only sub-weapon available to him is the axe. Because they didn't give him the holy water, or no, he can use the axe or the stopwatch. Because they didn't give him the holy water, and it wouldn't make sense for him to have dagger sub-weapons and just daggers as a regular weapon, so this is what you're left with. Which is fine by me. I mean, I pretty much always wanted the axe on Grant when I was playing him I was playing US Grant, so that's fine by me. I decided to do this run on normal just because, I don't know. I mean, I could have done it on hard, I guess, but I just didn't. I don't really remember why. I guess it's because my original Grant only run that I did on US Dracula's Curse, which was segmented, was on normal. This is not segmented. This is all one continuous. This is for real this time. This is me actually doing this. But I think I just maybe went with normal anyway because I was afraid maybe it would still be kind of boring. It's not boring, but it does feel a little bit. It doesn't quite feel. I mean, obviously it's more fun than US Grant, but it's not super fun because the fact that there's only one dagger on the screen. The fact you can only have one dagger on the screen at a time is, of course, a completely necessary balancing factor. Like it would be if you could if he just had permanent triple shot throwing daggers, then he'd be fucking insane. But the fact that he can only throw one dagger at a time does actually make the game feel kind of odd. It creates like an odd pattern to your attacks or an odd rhythm where like if you miss. Like, if the dagger doesn't leave the screen when you expect it to, then, like, you have to just sit there and wait, which doesn't feel exceptional. And, but the big difference between how JP Grant interacts with the game and US Grant interacts with the game has to do with the boss fights. Trying to fight the Cyclops on US Grant was always the biggest problem with playing US Grant. I'm desperately trying to hit that block. Okay, there we go. But JP Grant will absolutely shreds every Monster Mash boss. Fighting the mummies with US Grant was extremely difficult. Fighting the Cyclops is difficult. JP Grant laughs in the face of the Monster Mash. He is not interested in the Graveyard Smash. Not a chance in hell, lady. Sorry. This is the Grant show. It's Grant from here on out. And you're going to see what I mean about the Monster Mash being so much easier in 4, and especially in 7. But for now, here we are in the pirate ship, which, if you recall, or if you watched my videos about Dracula's Curse US, this is where Grant really starts to shine, and Grant's like platforming mechanics, his jump height, his ability to climb on walls is no different in the JP version. They only nerfed his combat with the US release to make him more of a utility character and less of a combat character. And I'll be honest, Grant is still more of a utility character than a combat character, even in JP. Even in JP Castlevania 3. Although I will say that this may contradict the point that I just made, which is that once you get Grant, it is like hard to. There are very few situations where you're like, oh, Grant can't handle this situation, and I need Trevor to handle it. Like, if you have Grant out already to do all the platforming that's associated with this level, there's no reason to ever have Trevor out for most of it. Like, because the only thing that Trevor can do that Grant can't is utilize the Holy Water, which is extremely important for some bosses, obviously, but barring that single tool that Grant doesn't have, Trevor is not better than him in any way. I mean, Trevor takes less damage, but Grant moves faster, Grant jumps higher, Grant can bypass obstacles that Trevor can't. So if you do go the Grant route and you take Grant, you will find yourself in this position of playing as Grant and never really not playing as Grant. So even though I do think Trevor's combat is better, the fact that Grant moves faster and has all these movement options means that you it's so incentivized to have him out. Because the game is not just combat, the game is also movement, the game is also platforming. And here, instead of Grant shooting his sub-weapon, when he's up on the ceilings, he'll just shoot his daggers, which is actually kind of annoying for me in this example, because what I could do in the US version is if I had the axe sub-weapon with the shot multiplier, I could be throwing multiple axes at a time. But you're locked to single-shot daggers for his default attack, so you can only throw one dagger at a time if you're hanging on a ceiling or on a wall. So, oh well. Small price to pay for default throwing daggers. Yeah, it's very interesting because Grant having an instant attack, because the knife really was instant. I think Sypha's cane is practically instant, and then of course the whip has its infamous wind up. Grant having an instant attack gave him an interesting ability to react very quickly to like flying enemies like this. But the fact that he has daggers, the fact that he now has this like throwing dagger wind up, takes that away from him. So that's pretty much the only thing that JP Grant doesn't have that US Grant does have, is the ability to utilize an attack instantly. That axe hit that bird? I can't believe it looked like that axe went right over that bird, but I guess it barely grazed its like wings. Huh. So here's the first Monster Mash. You're going to see Grant absolutely demolish these mummies in a second here. Although actually, now that I say that, I think that the wrappings can... Okay, yeah, the wrappings can hit me up here, but if they're close enough to me that I can just keep spamming these daggers at the correct, so that I can keep spamming enough daggers, then they'll just never hit me. I actually have gotten hit here sometimes before. If one of the mummies gets right super close to me and throws like 2 high wrappings, one after the other, then I will look at how happy I am. Look at how happy I am. Because fighting those mummies is such a shit show on Grant normally, or on Grant in the US version. But in the JP version, he just fucking demolishes them. And as awesome as this is, and as fun as JP Grant is, did I take any damage that level? I don't think I took any damage. Yeah, look at that. I'm so hyped to be slamming the Monster Mash that hard. This is like night and day. Like watch my Grant only US video and watch me try to fight those bosses with US Grant. It's like trying to do what? It's like trying to fight someone who's like 2 feet taller than you. That's the best analogy I can come up with. I'm sorry if it's not very good, but that's all I got. You basically don't have the tools to fight them. And it's an interesting question, because I read someone online saying that JP Grant makes more sense because you have to go out of your way to get him. You have to go do the clock tower, which is this difficult, completely optional level. It's the only level that's not part of either of the main routes. It's completely bypassable no matter what. And the fact that JP Grant is so good is meant to be the incentive for completing that level. That's one way of looking at Grant's job in the game, is to provide a reward for an optional level. But on the other hand, like I think I said earlier, the fact that his attack has like this similar wind-up to Trevor, and the fact that he has this like infinite range throwing weapon means that he is basically better at everything than Trevor is, except taking damage and using the holy water. So basically the question that I'm wrestling with is, were the US nerfs to Grant justified? Should Grant have been nerfed? If so, should he have been nerfed to the extent that he was nerfed in US Dracula's Curse? And on the one hand, it does make sense to have Grant. The logic of the clock tower is hard, so you should be rewarded substantially for doing it. That makes sense to me, because the clock tower is hard. It's honestly one of the hardest levels in the whole game, although it's sneaky. It's just because it has so many insta-kill death pits. Once you introduce that factor to a level, it automatically becomes like 3 times harder, because now you could just die at any point in the level. So that makes sense to me. But on the other hand, the companion characters are supposed to be complementary to Trevor's skill set, where it's supposed to be a collaborative effort, right? It's not supposed to be Grant by himself goes and kills Dracula. It's supposed to be Trevor and Grant team up to go defeat Dracula, right? Or Trevor and Sypha. And I guess Sypha is also... The thing about Sypha is that she's very good, but she's very... she's like even clunky. I'm mostly thinking about lightning and the way lightning works, and how lightning is sort of... You can only have the 3 projectiles on the screen at a time. You can only have like... If there's a lightning projectile still on the screen, you can't shoot another one. That gives her like this natural cooldown to her ability to do combat that means that she's vulnerable more often than Trevor is. Like when I do Sypha route videos, you will see me swap back and forth from Sypha to Trevor fairly often. Because there are still some instances where the whip is just so good that I want it over whatever Sypha has available to her. The only time you would swap off Grant, if you had him, is to utilize the Holy Water on Trevor. Or I guess if you wanted to hold on to a stopwatch, you could switch to Trevor, or you could just use Trevor as a second sub-weapon slot. And this is not a very exciting... Oh, this is actually interesting. So I'm crouching down here because if rocks fall from the ceiling above me, they're going to hit the platform that's above me and they're not going to hit me. So the only thing I have to worry about... Right, exactly like that. So the only thing I have to worry about is when he throws the rock at me, and he's not good at hitting me with the that's a cool action shot. Fall from the ceiling into throwing dagger freeze frame. That's pretty cool. And he's not good at hitting me there with the throne block. Shit. Something just fell off my desk. Let me excuse me for 1 second, gentlemen and ladies and non-binary. I have a disorganized desk space, and sometimes these things happen. Level 6. Anything to say about level 6 in particular? It's pretty much... Oh, actually, yes, because now we have the fishmen in 6B, and Grant can no longer use his instant stab attack to hit them right when they get close to him. Now I really have to be careful about how I use my attacks. Because the thing is that one of the best ways to get through 6B and other areas like this, and just like combat challenges in the game in general, is what I call the falling whip, which I've talked about before. It's basically something that you can do in every NES Castlevania game, and it's a great thing to learn how to do, where you jump and then you start whipping, so that when your whip finishes its attack animation, you're falling down, and the result is that the whip's hitbox will basically land on top of anything in front of you. So you're maintaining your forward momentum, and you're also hitting not just whatever is right in front of you when you land, but whatever is in front of you towards the second half of your jump as you're falling. And that's kind of how you get through that part, is by jumping and dropping the whip's hitbox on top of the fish guys as they come in. Grant can't really do that because the throwing dagger is not a continuous object. It's just a thing. It means that he can have like this dead zone in front of him, in a way that Trevor can't. And also the timing on throwing the dagger is slightly different from the whip, I think. And for one thing, it's contingent upon whether or not the dagger is still on the screen or not. So if you miss, if you're like jumping around, if you're trying to like jump, do like a falling dagger throw, and then you miss, and now the dagger has to take the time to get across the screen and leave the screen before you can throw another one, that can have consequences. And that might not sound like a lot of time, like you might think, Shovatar, look at how fast the knife is going off the screen, like how could that possibly matter? Oh, it matters. In Castlevania 3, every fucking second matters. So, So that is the one thing about the throwing dagger that creates restrictions for it, is that only one on the screen at a time thing. But it's not a huge deal. Like I said at the very start of the video, it would be overpowered. That wasn't how it worked. And now we have the level 6 boss, which Grant is well suited for. Not as good, of course, as Cypher with Lightning, where she just stands on one platform and just annihilates them. If I could say one thing, one change that I would have loved to have seen incorporated into the US version of Dracula's Curse, compared like in the JP version, these guys having consistent patterns to where they show up. That alone makes this boss fight so much more fair and so much more manageable. Is just the fact that they show up in the same places every time. So it becomes just, instead of becoming this giant obstacle run killer in the middle of a run, it becomes just another boss that you have to, just patterns you have to learn and that you have to just react to correctly, and then you just win. Like I don't see what the point is to that kind of randomness. I mean the point is to make it harder. That's what most of the changes in US Dracula's Curse are there to do, is to make the game more difficult, but every other boss in Dracula's Curse has... Okay, so what's happening there is I'm desperately trying to climb down the blocks, but I guess for some reason, because I'm hitting... I don't know what button I'd be hitting to make that happen, but for some reason the game thought that I was trying to climb on the blocks instead of just walk off of them. I think it's because I was trying to walk away from the skeleton, and like I ended up walking into the block, and the game got confused. I don't really know. I don't remember. It's amazing that the dagger hits. Well, that's not amazing. Maybe it's extremely convenient that the dagger hits the rabbit things when they're just at rest on the ground. Yeah, I don't duck there because if I tried to duck right there, I would have walked down the stairs, so I have to go forward, then duck, then throw. And let's see, I think I'm probably going to take one hit here. I usually do. That's because of that fucker on the left. He's kind of like, yeah, okay, alright, never mind. Alright, I guess I'm good. Okay. Wow. Oh, it did it again. It did it again. Okay. If you go back and watch that, you'll see that I destroyed the harpy and the rabbit with one knife, and then like a second rabbit showed up, and I destroyed the second rabbit with the second knife. It was like super fast. I might do another like slow down replay, but the thing is that those are actually kind of annoying to do. I have extremely primitive video editing software, so trying to do anything more complicated than like completely replace an audio track or like cut out a certain section of video is actually extremely annoying. Which is fine for me, because most of these videos are pretty bare bones. I'm not trying to do anything too fancy. But if you go, you can just go back and watch it, I think, and you'll see it. It's not as funny as some other things that I've gone to the trouble of going back and specifically emphasizing, so I think I'll probably just leave that one as it is. You guys are just gonna have to deal with it, sorry to say. And I make the 7B jump, I make the 7B jump with flying colors, my whole fucking body lands on the tilting platform, and I am not quite good to go. Thing about Grant only runs is that Grant is a beast, but depriving yourself of Trevor deprives you of the holy water. And the big issue with that is the death fight at the end of level 8, which is going to come up here in a moment. Because the death fight is really hard, and throughout the rest of Castlevania 3, you consistently have the option to just stun lock, kill him with the holy water with Trevor. But no Trevor means no holy water, means no stun lock, means you have to actually fight the Grim Reaper like as a real boss. So now there's a gigantic problem at the end of level 8 that didn't exist before. And nothing that Grant does in particular makes up for that, I think. So I think doing a Grant only run is honestly probably still, if at my level of familiarity with the game, is probably still harder. If you're completely new to the game, then having this infinite range throwing dagger makes it a lot easier, because it's just, you can just interact with so much less risk. Interact with a lot of enemies with so much less risk. And the reason that I'm not just crouching up here is because I was nervous about the mummy on the right. Yeah, I'm nervous about him facing me and spamming high wrappings that I can't destroy in time before one of them hits me. But eventually, they go down. Come on, die. Die! Alright. So they have more health than last time? I feel like they took more hits than they did on level 4. I think they might, maybe they have variable health. Let's see how... Alright, well the Cyclops is dying pretty much as fast as I would expect it to, so the Cyclops' health isn't different, but it seems like the mummies might be. And I want to say I have trouble with the demon here. I bet I do, because the demon's pretty tricky. Because the thing about the demon is that it has a bunch of health. A lot of the bosses in Castlevania in Densetsu had their health severely nerfed. That's kind of the biggest difference. One of the biggest differences between JP3 and US3 is boss health. But the demon's health was not nerfed. The demon still has a bunch of health that I'm having a hell of a time whittling through here. I guess I'm doing okay. Jesus! Okay, never mind. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know where this guy... I think I expected him to land on top of the platform above me. Like, I didn't think he would land... Does that even make sense? Does where he landed even make sense? It's like, did he go, like, through the platform? I don't know, but anyway, so what he did there was not what I was expecting him to do. I don't really get that boss. I don't really understand his behaviors 100%. With the US version of the demon, it's very clear. It's like jump 3 times, shoot a fireball, jump 3 times, shoot fireballs. Very, very simple. With that guy, it's like jump, and then like have like a long jump, and then like a short jump, and then like a long jump, and then maybe another one if he feels like it. I don't know. It's really weird. It definitely feels more like what I think it's supposed to evoke, which is phase 2 of of Castlevania 1 Dracula. Where, like, if you don't Holy Water Stunlock Phase 2 of Castlevania 1 Dracula, then that's kind of what it's like. He, like, jumps around on top of you and shoots fireballs that are hard to dodge, and you're pretty much guaranteed to take some damage, but, and that's kind of what that guy's like. What the fuck hit me? I honestly... Okay, that was, like, so fast I didn't even see what hit me. What the hell just happened? Okay, I forgot about this. Yeah, game's having a problem. There's a spider web on the screen. Alright, it's gone. Yeah, Densetsu is more prone to bugs than Dracula's Curse is, or at least, or maybe it's just a problem with like the ROM that I have. I mean the Famicom that I have and the cartridge. I don't know. I don't do the thing here that I did in my Dracula's Curse grant only normal run where I basically herd a skeleton off a cliff into the darkness and it turns into an eyeball. Go check out my Dracula's Curse grant only video if you want to see that. Maybe I should have done it there, but I guess I just didn't feel like it. I don't know why not. It's not hard to do. I guess I was worried about the bone thrower hitting me, and you know what? Honestly, the fact that this is not segmented means that it actually like matters. And I think I didn't want to like fuck around. I wanted to keep going and get to the Grim Reaper fight, and actually get an attempt on him and see if this run was actually going to continue or not. Also, fun fact: it doesn't seem like Grant can get triple shot axes, and I don't know why that is. Because I swear to God, I've gotten triple shot axes. I've gotten triple shot on Trevor. I don't know if it's axes that can't get the triple shot or if it's Grant that can't get the triple shot, but either way, triple shot axes on Grant is not happening. And here I think I'm trying to bait the scythes, and yeah, okay. I'm waiting for the scythes to spawn, then I'm dodging out of the way. Grant actually has the tools to dodge these scythes, the tools that Trevor objectively lacks. To both dodge the scythes and do good damage while doing it, because his attacks are so independent of position. Look at that, no damage Grim Reaper. Maybe that's not impressive, but you guys have to keep in mind that, like, I'm so used to fighting that guy with the Holy Water Stunlock that just getting through it at all is pretty cool to me. And I actually, like, engaged with the boss. I was, like, dodging his shit. I was, like, hitting him when I was in a safe spot. You just need to play as Grant to do it. You just need to be going faster. You move faster, and you need perma-throwing daggers and throwing axes to actually make the Grim Reaper fight a fair boss fight that's doable. This is also interesting. This is kind of like going through the gauntlet on... I guess I can't call it an Igor gauntlet anymore, because I'm going to have to call it a rabbit gauntlet. This is pretty much identical to doing the rabbit gauntlet on Trevor, with of course the ever-present Grant caveat that if I miss a dagger, then I'm sitting there holding my dick for a certain period of time until the dagger leaves the screen and I can throw another one. But fortunately there, it all worked out. And interestingly, usually what I would do for 9-2 on Grant is I would try to stopwatch spam through it, which is something you can only really do on Grant. I talk about this a lot in my other Dracula's Curse videos, but basically stopwatch spamming through 9-2 doesn't usually work, because 9-2 has gargoyles in it that will basically, to make a long explanation short, if you stopwatch gargoyles, then when they unfreeze, they start like spazzing out and they fly up and down the screen really erratically. But with Grant just moves so fast and he can climb up the stairs so fast that never becomes a problem. By the time the gargoyles are unfrozen and they're spazzing out, he's like already out of their way in a way that other characters wouldn't be. But I don't have a stopwatch here because I needed the axe to kill the Grim Reaper, so I'm gonna have to do this room with the axe. And I think when I did this run, I didn't realize how insane 9-2 on hard mode was, but I think I just wanted to like do a Grant only run and I didn't care about the difficulty in particular, but in retrospect, looking back at it, doing this on normal and instead of hard was the correct decision, because JP hard mode 9.2 is actually fucking ridiculous. Because the gargoyles just never stop spawning. And I don't know if that would... I don't know if I mean, I'm sure Grant can handle it, but... Especially if it's like... If I'm like throwing axes in the turrets and then saving daggers for the gargoyles, I'm sure it'd be fine, but it's something that I would rather not deal with, to be honest. And, yep, those guys, yeah, Grant can actually fight these guys. Grant can actually, like, fight things without having to resort to a sub-weapon. Which is... Again, I mean, here's the thing. So the only reason why... To go back to what I was talking about before about US Grant and whether the nerfs were justified. This is a hard thing for me to evaluate, because I'm accustomed to US Grant. And I'm used to just accepting that he is a utility character who's there to help you utilize shortcuts. He's not a combat character the way Sypha is. And the thing about Grant that never made me feel like he was underpowered was the fact that he could let you skip 9-4. That's something that I've talked about over and over and over again, and I'm going to say it again. The simple fact that Grant lets you skip the first room of 9-4 in US Castlevania Dracula's Curse makes him automatically good. If he didn't do anything else, if he had absolutely zero presence for the rest of the entire game, but he let you skip 9-4, he would still be good. So, I think the nerfs were probably, I think nerfing Grant overall makes sense. I don't know if they should have nerfed him necessarily as much as they did in US Dracula's Curse, because the problem is that Grant's default attack being like a little shank that comes out and hits at a very short range. Fucking hell, man. Just fucking dies. Fucking birds, dude. Just fly off the screen and dive bomb me. I don't know. Anyway. US Grant's default attack being this tiny little dagger obviously makes sense. Like, he has daggers. Oh, actually, I'm gonna stop talking about it for a second to talk about the doppelganger. So I mentioned in my last video that I posted, this little gap here underneath the floor doesn't exist in the US version. This is exactly why. It's specifically because Grant can go underneath it and then stand there, and the doppelganger doesn't know what's going on, and it can't hit him, and it just stands there and dies. Now, of course, removing that little gap underneath the platform does not prevent the doppelganger from not knowing what's going on and just standing there and dying, as you will see if you watch any of my other Castlevania 3 videos, where the way that you beat the doppelganger is by getting it to just stand there and die. But it is it's trickier to do. The way that you confuse it is not as obvious if you take out that little gap there. So it's kind of like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound in terms of making the doppelganger less cheesable, but I guess a band-aid is better than nothing. Lag to the fucking nth degree. You know what? The fact that this stage lags so much actually makes it easier. Because it gives you more time to react to the Medusa heads, and react to where they are, and figure out where they're going to be. So actually, the fact that the Famicom lags more is just another thing about JP Castlevania 3 that makes it easier. Not too much lag by the end, though. Okay, how do I do this? I don't remember how I did this. Oh yeah, I was talking about the US Grant's little shank. The problem with the shank is that having a super short range attack for Grant makes logical sense, because like he has a knife and he was going to stab people with a knife. But it's just a terrible weapon to use, because one of the best things about Castlevania games is how it rewards you for simultaneous aggression and keeping strategic distance. I don't know much about NES games, but I've watched a lot of like old Angry Video Game Nerd videos, right? And a consistent complaint that the Angry Video Game Nerd has when he talks about like these shovelware NES side-scrollers is the weapon is way too short. And if a weapon is too short, that makes any attempt to engage with an enemy an inherent risk, because the margin between being close enough to hit them and being too close and now they're hitting you is so small. The fact that the Belmont family utilizes a whip, this like super long range attack, completely bypasses that problem. Grant having a tiny knife brings that problem back, and it creates a situation where Grant in the US version can basically only really attack with a sub-weapon. You never want to use the shank on Grant, if you can avoid it. And again, whether or not that's... And then that's, I think that's just... that's an objective appraisal, I think. The fact that the shank is bad and that you don't want to use it. The question is that appropriate for the character? Should the character's combat capabilities be as limited as they are? Like, should Grant be designed so that you really only ever want to fight with sub-weapons? You know, is he a combat character or not? In JP, he obviously is. In the US version, he's not. And I don't know, I don't necessarily have a problem with how US Grant is designed, but again, that's just what I'm used to. Oh, this is interesting. So, yeah, the fact that Grant can jump over Dracula's fire pillars is actually relevant in the JP version of Dracula Phase 1, because JP Dracula Phase 1 will actually corner you, whereas US Dracula Phase 1 does not. And I almost got cornered there again anyway. I'm interested to see how I play Phase 3, because I remember Phase 3 actually being harder to juke in JP than in US, and I want to see if that's true. Phase 2, of course, is pretty much the same. The only difference is that because I'm not killing Dracula Phase 1 in the same place every time, like I am in the US runs, I don't necessarily always know exactly what Phase 2 is going to do, but fortunately the fact that Grant has such a high movement speed means that it's much easier for him to, Yeah, I'm getting super aggressive. I'm actually kind of... Okay, yeah, that was actually kind of scary. The fact that Grant has super and so much high movement speed makes it much easier to actually react to what the thing is doing. And down goes Dracula. That was a pretty fucking fast Phase 3, so I guess it's okay after all. Yeah, I don't know. You know what's fun? You know what just occurred to me? JP Grant is kind of like proto-Rondo Maria. He doesn't shit on the game quite as hard as Maria does, but like watching him zoom around the screen and like hit enemies completely uncontested reminds me of Maria and Rondo, actually. So that's funny. Grant does a little cheer, and then he becomes soaked in blood. I guess that's the blood of all the enemies he just killed all by himself. So I spent the entire video belaboring a question of whether or not I think that JP Grant is too good or just right, and I haven't really come to an answer. Because I have trouble finding problems with either situation, because they both seem just so eminently defensible to me. JP Grant being overpowered, well, it's to reward you for the clock tower. I can't argue with that. US Grant being relatively underpowered and more of a utility character, well, that's so that he doesn't make Trevor completely obsolete sans the holy water. I can't argue with that either. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am, or where I am, or where I'm going, or what I'm doing, or why I'm here. I don't know anything. That's just how you're left sometimes. In the world, in the tossing seas of time. Anyway, that's Grant. That's Grant crawling along, throwing daggers, fucking everything up. Grant McNasty, the man of the hour, back again to do it to him, because he has to. It's his destiny to. Maybe that's why his name's Dynasty, because it's like Destiny or McNasty. I don't know. Is the font different? I feel like this font is maybe different. I don't recall. I mean, different compared to the US version. So, hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry that I wasn't as drunk, or not drunk, I actually don't drink at all, but I'm sorry that I wasn't as incoherent as I was in my last Grant-only video. I'm actually, like, awake and rested, and I can form sentences this time, so I'm sorry if that makes it less enjoyable, but that's how it is sometimes. I hope I was able to provide some insight. I didn't really answer any questions, but hopefully I posed some questions maybe you guys can come up to answers with on your own. That's what you can do. That's your destiny, to try to